my magical channel. I have to say I'm so happy to see that we just started and I already have woke people asking me amazing questions. So the video this time is a request from someone who wanted me to talk about it. Thank you very much, and before we start I'm going to say I have some bad news and some good news. The good news first. If you are watching this and you are able to ask me such a question, this can mean two things. Thing number one is that the brainwashing and the occult and all of that stuff happening through K-pop did not work on you, or it did work but you were able to break free by yourself, which makes you above average both intellectually and spiritually. The other thing that it does is that it can place you and me in danger, because I don't know if you have noticed, but the channels that have the best information when it comes to such topics tend to disappear. Like you watch their videos and one day they're not there. So because I want to avoid bot detection as much as possible, we are not going to use names as much as we can in this video. I'm going to say the youngest member of Shinee, the oldest member of Shinee, the member who passed away, and so on, because the more we use their names, the more the bots catch up and start to recommend the video to places that they can put us in danger. I put it in the title, but I don't think that's going to cause a big problem. Before we start, I'm going to have to explain to you some basics, because there are a lot of people who don't know and understandably feel afraid. And the basics have to do with how the concept of sacrifice works, how the concept of picking someone with spiritual power works, and so on. Everything I say in this video is my personal opinion, and imagine that when it comes to the occult, it's a bit like psychology. Have you seen that there are different psychologists who support different therapies and they have different schools, and you're encouraged to do the type of therapy that works for you? For example, you're encouraged to do dialectical therapy, psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and people say try and find out what works for you. It's the same here. So I do things that work for me and give me the results that I want spiritually. If you find someone else who does something different or says something different, I'm not against them. And again, I emphasize I'm not against any religion. As long as your religion is empowering you and protecting you and you're happy with it, keep practicing it. The goal here is education and information exchange, and not converting anyone into anything, selling your soul, selling my soul, and crazy stuff like that. We're doing dystopian witchcraft, which means 21st century. So let's take things from the very beginning. What is a sacrifice when you practice any kind of occult? And I said occult is not just Satanism. Satanism is a very small part, and there are also many different types of it. To compare with more mainstream religions, for example, every time you leave an offering in a shrine when you're a Buddhist, or every time you light a candle, that could be considered an offering to the God you believe in, or when you make a request and you pray for something and it happens, or even before it happens, like in Japanese shrines, for example. That's not the same as the sacrifice, and also it's not the same as charity, because when you do charity, for example, when you donate to the Salvation Army, you give from something that you have that is extra. When you sacrifice, you have to give something that you are very attached to, and it doesn't necessarily have to have an expensive value or to be valuable to other people, although that could be the case, but that's not always the case. For example, when you have a favorite item, let's say it's a watch your father bought for you, and you're asked to give it as an offering. Give it as an offering could be many things, from abandoning it to destroying it, to give it to someone else, to ironically giving it to charity. Maybe the watch is $20, but for you it's invaluable. That's a sacrifice. There are people who are going to tell you that you should sacrifice animals or humans or stuff like that. Personally, I'm against any kind of harm towards another being, and it's not necessary, if you want to practice magic, to sacrifice living beings. I don't believe that. There are people who will tell you, no, it's necessary, I don't care. If you do want to sacrifice living beings, I repeat, it has to be something attached to you. So what you see in the American movies, that someone stole your cat and sacrificed it, that's bullshit. Because that didn't require anything from you. You didn't spend money to raise the cat, you didn't spend time to raise the cat, you were not emotionally attached to the cat, and if someone is so stupid and so abusive to steal a random animal and sacrifice it, nothing will happen. The spell will not work. Or even better, if they are so stupid to steal or harm a pet of someone who actually practices witchcraft, I would curse them. and they wouldn't stick around for too long, if I'm allowed to say. So now that this went out of the way, let's go to our topic, which is this specific band. There are people who say the band members are brainwashed. They take them when they are children and they introduce black magic to them and stuff like that before they're even able to understand what's going on. And this is something that I'm going to have to say that I'm going to give you all the data and you're going to make your own conclusion. When it comes to practicing magic, if you want the spell to work, if you want to have massive success, there are way more requirements before we reach the sacrificing anyone or anything stage. Requirement number one, already existing spiritual power, preferably genetic, preferably the one that is being passed down from generation to generation. That kind of thing exists, and I'm going to tell you examples that I've seen in real life and things that they're in real life that they're pretty crazy. And you cannot just put 5 or 6 random people and say, okay, these people starting today, they're going to be practicing black magic. It's not going to work. And I believe that I'm going to call them the elites in general, or the people who know about that stuff also know it's pretty basic. So they're not going to pick up random kids and say, those kids today, yeah, they're becoming top Satanists, they're becoming top black magicians, and we're taking over the world. I have a pet, I'm going to call it pet, that is also familiar. I know that we don't know what familiars are yet because I have to explain all that stuff on the channel, but for now let's keep that it could be something who offers spiritual assistance to a person that you loved from a previous lifetime that reincarnates with you in every lifetime because you made a reincarnation contract with it, or it loves you and comes back to you over and over and over. And I'm going to show pets like that to you and tell you stories about them. But for now, let's just say this familiar is in a cat form, and I met it in very terrible circumstances. It was on the verge of death, and it called me, and I went to it. And I'm someone who does cat rescue, so it's not like, oh my god, I found a cat and I'm living my own spiritual little bubble story. So I was taking this cat to the vet, and there was a person, there was a girl that she saw the cat, and we were talking about unrelated topics. And at some point, she told me, out of complete nowhere, this cat is not a cat. And they said, what do you mean? And she said, from the way it behaves and it interacts, it has human eyes. It's like there's a human inside the cat. And by asking more information, I found out later that this girl was a devout Muslim. Her parents hated any kind of witchcraft, any kind of the occult. She had no relation to Buddhism whatsoever. And most importantly, she didn't know my cat, my familiar. Yet she was able to see through the whole thing like nothing happened. She was able to detect that this is not a normal cat. And I'm telling you, this is from a normal civilian, a person who doesn't practice any kind of magic. So this is an example of a person that she's very highly spiritually intuitive. So if she wanted to practice witchcraft, I don't doubt she would be extremely successful with the right training and guidance. So I'm going to come and ask you here, when they do those K-pop auditions with children, that they're 8, 9, 10 years old, are we sure they're detecting only music and dance skills and they're not detecting spiritual power as well? Because if I can say it, and I don't consider myself top, even by far, other people can see it as well. So my opinion would be that the members are handpicked also based by their potential to perform spells. Now you're going to say, why don't they just take a person and have only the leader doing the spells, or have only one person doing the spells and the rest are just MK Ultra slaves and so on? In theory, that could happen. In theory, you can have one person and everyone else is their puppet, or 2 people and everyone else is their puppet. But I believe that when it comes to K-pop, when you want to put a spell on hundreds of thousands of people when you have a live, or when you want someone who is strong enough to put you on a spell, when you watch their video, or when you hear their song, you need all the energy that you can get. You need all the skill that you can get. So my theory again on that is that everyone who is on the group practices it. I'm going to use an example to you to prove that the member we're talking about, that we're wondering what happened to them, actually practiced witchcraft too. Do you remember the videos from the internet wars time? The internet wars are like a very old video. It's happened years ago, yet it still attracts people reacting to it, with him and the youngest member. Remember what we said on the introduction video. One of the biggest signs that you are under a spell is you are acting out of character for you. For example, I have a friend that every 3 months she finds the one. Every 3 months she finds a soulmate. Obviously, all of those people are not her soulmates. We have more than one soulmate, but not that many. But she's the kind of person that she gets excited and she feels in love and she finds a soulmate. So if this person finds a next soulmate, she's not under a spell. That's her personality, most likely. On internet wars, go in the comment section where they are dancing together and the youngest member is acting submissive. Go to the comment section, you're going to see so many people saying, I'm not gay and I feel sexually aroused. I'm not gay and that's the first time like I can forget what happened. I'm here and I watched this 2,000 times. It has 2,000 views just from me. And you think this is not a spell? When you are not gay, and I'm saying this with zero homophobia or transphobia, when you're not gay and you've never been attracted to two men flirting or dancing or seducing each other before in your entire life, and all of a sudden there is a video of them doing that and you've watched it 2,000 times, there's a spell there. I'm not even going to have to explain it, and I'm sure you get it if you found me and you watch me. There is a spell there. So we have so far found out the following. This person had spiritual power and this person wasn't clueless. Okay? Now let's get to the third part. Assuming that everything that I said is true, which again is just my elaborate theory, okay? Assuming that everything that I said is true, not only everyone knows what's going on, but everyone has to agree to do it. When you practice black magic or the occult in general, you're going to have so many enemies. You're going to have enemies from other religions. You're going to have enemies from other groups who also practice stuff and they compete with you for the same thing. You're going to have enemies from people who are atheists or agnostics, or they believe in science, which, like I said, we support science on this channel, but at some point science stops and the unknown begins. So one of the major things that is being promoted is we don't stab around. That is also major negative karma. If you truly have a spiritual bond with someone, you're not going to backstab them and sacrifice them to advance your career. So how did this happen if it did happen? There is a chance that the members were people who had the potential of doing that, which is also something that you can handpick by psychology. For example, a narcissist is not going to hesitate at all to sacrifice you to get ahead. So maybe they handpicked that too. Or maybe the members are not as close as we think. You see all of those brainwashed fans and brainwashed drones, I'm going to call them drones a lot on this channel, that they say, oh, the members are best friends. How do you know that? I've done YouTube for quite some time and I have another channel that is about femdom called Revenge Star, if you want to check that out too. And I can tell you that YouTubers fake stuff so much. I know a YouTuber who faked a divorce. I know a YouTuber who faked an abortion. I know endless YouTubers who faked pregnancies. I know YouTubers who faked suicide attempts. I know YouTubers who fake being trans. If simple YouTubers can do that, don't you think that a member group can fake friendship? Maybe they're not as close as we think, or maybe they had a fallout. Or maybe there were people that they were determined to do whatever it takes to begin with. Now, another thing that doesn't sit well with the whole sacrifice thing is the person we are talking about was a person that you could clearly see that they weren't happy with the way things are. That I've watched their videos and their interviews, and they talked a lot about depression, they talked a lot about problems with like getting hate online or being trapped and so on. So they clearly were not getting all of this quote-unquote narcissistic supply from the fans and the whole, like, you know, being extremely rich and famous. So I know that when it comes to mental health in Asia, people do not have the same open mind as in some Western countries, but still, people are going to tell me that this person had depression and there was nothing done for them and they were left to just deteriorate to the point of suicide. There are specific states in the US that if you present solid proof to the police that someone is stalking you repeatedly to the point that your life is in danger, you can fake your own death. So my intuition is telling me that there is a pretty high chance that this person wanted to retire and all of this could have been staged. Again, I'm giving you a lot of information, you can make your own conclusion, but for me, I don't know if you have done research on celebrities that they age, There are celebrities who aged and they started acting crazy, or all of the alcohol and the drugs that did in their younger years caught up to them, and they spent their last days forgotten, and their books and their albums and whatever they did stopped making sales. And if you have noticed, all the celebrities who died, quote unquote, died youthful, they're still very much trending and selling like crazy. So if that particular group didn't have that particular incident happening to them, would they be still trending like today, like so much as now? And would they get what I say sympathy currency, that people watch them because, oh my god, poor them? That is the best scenario. The best scenario is that this person found a very smart way out and they live somewhere happy now and everyone profits from it. I know that they're going to say, what about their fans though? Like, why would you devastate your fans? There are people who even committed suicide when this happened. Well, I believe you have a responsibility to your fans, but at the end of the day, you also have a responsibility to yourself. And if what they needed from self-care was to just leave the spotlight, then I'm not going to blame anyone for doing that. The chance of being a sacrifice now, because that's my intuition, but again, I don't have certainty, so I'm just sharing it with you. The other case is that you can actually sacrifice someone by pushing them to suicide. You don't have to do some elaborate ritual, going under the moonlight at the cemetery and getting a team of people in black hoods. Some of the most powerful black magicians that I know, they say, I do everything mentally. I don't need candles, I don't need offerings, I don't need anything. Just focus and the person dies, and that's pretty scary. So if they decided to push that member to suicide and they managed to do it, that counts as a sacrifice as much as doing any kind of ritual. Of course, this is something we can figure out in the upcoming years, because doing something so toxic and so forbidden, like backstabbing your own member, one of your own, when you're already successful, to be even more successful, this is going to backfire. Let me tell you that. It may not backfire now, it may not backfire in 2 or 3 years, but you're going to know that something terrible and something out of nowhere is not going to happen. I don't believe that all black magic backfires. I can make videos on that too. I'm going to explain to you from point zero, but something like that does backfire because it's extremely like unnatural, greedy, and bad karma. So if they said we're going to do something to push this member to suicide spiritually, mentally, and practically, you will know, because it's going to hit them out of nowhere. Some of the worst, most evil people that I know had endings that they lived all of their life without, for example, getting a single cold. And then there is a person that I know like that the person one day was told that they have bone cancer and they have 2 months to live, and they spent 2 months in the most humiliating, agonizing, terrible state possible. And that was because of so many people who cursed them and who wished them ill, because that person was abusing his employees, his students, his family. He was abusing everyone, and he got a horrible end out of nowhere. Of course, those are all extreme cases scenarios. Like I said, researching into black magic is the last resort, not the first resort. And there are cases that I believe that there are people who got cursed and died, and I believe who simply died because of the pressure, or because they had some genetic history that we don't know of, or because proper help wasn't given to them. So I would start by that. I would start by investigating what happened with their mental health. Like, did they actually get any support? Was it the right support? Overall, I think that the group is descending, and you see especially the youngest member. I could make videos, he doesn't even try to hide it. If you see his face from 5 years ago, and if you see him now, he doesn't even try to hide it. Those are blatant spells on the videos. And you know, I can make another video, one of those videos who shows you the butterflies, or show you the horns, or show you the 666 and all that, and it's going to be one of the same. I think I want to attract people woke enough to already know that stuff. There are YouTube channels who do excellent work with that. I'm only going to say that when you have been recruited, okay, the youngest member got recruited and he could barely sing. I'm not saying this to offend him. If I'm his fan, if anything, I like him, but let's be real, he couldn't sing. When it comes to dancing, he was one of the best, but all of a sudden, after his debut, he was able to start singing. And now he's one of the best singers. How's that possible? Okay, it's practicing. So I'm going to ask you, if all of us practice something, we can reach that level? Do you believe that everything is possible for everyone? Personally, I don't believe that. Personally, I believe that there were spells involved and there were siphoning energy from the fans involved and there were a lot of stuff involved that make this possible. There was a person a few years ago that is completely unrelated to what we're talking today. He had a blog called Bold and Determined. He has quit now and he has become a Christian. And I'm not saying it in a bad way, I'm saying this is what happened to him. He said he was quitting and he's returning to Christianity. Like I said, your path is for you, good for you if it expresses you. I'm mentioning this person for another reason to explain to you something. This person, like the author of Bold and Determined, the blog, had written several books. And I had purchased one of the books that is now gone online from the internet, back then when I was his fan. And it was extremely impressive that he was the kind of person that he didn't have any kind of training when it comes to writing. He had a filming degree. And then you read that book and you felt such a fire in your heart and your soul, like you were achieving your goals. I would read a chapter and I would feel a wave of energy inside me. The book was about monk mode, how to enter a state of flow and succeed in your goals. And there were times that literally instead of coffee I would read a chapter and I would feel energized. And later, when he made a video or a podcast, I think you can find, if you type Bold and Determined on YouTube, some of his fans uploaded some of his videos because he took down everything. He said that he had a demon, that the demon was using his hand to write the book because he was practicing black magic, and that overnight he became from a person that could barely write, he didn't know the basics about grammar and structure, and he hadn't read many books. All of a sudden he became an author making like his blog, the net worth was $100,000. So if that can be done with writing, can be done with singing, can be done with anything. I'm not going to make this video like 2 days long and dwell on if it's okay, if it's not okay, if it's dangerous. I'm only going to say that when I see a person that could barely sing, and then this happens and all of a sudden there's such an amazing singer, something is going on here. And if you ask what is going on, it's the drone fans that all of a sudden you wake up and you're under a spell. And we can discuss on the next videos what are the signs that you're under a spell, both in K-pop and in general. Like, how are you going to know? How are you going to protect yourself? Overall, to answer this question, if you ask me, do you believe this person was sacrificed? My answer is, I don't think so. I think that either the person was able to stage their own death and escape, or the person was really taken down by some other event that we don't know of. That doesn't mean that I don't believe that sacrifice never happens. It's because I was asked about this specific person in this specific case that's what I think. But like I said, in other cases, there's a different story. I'm just trying to keep things safe here because if the bots detect us, I'm going to be gone. And like I said, the people, they're going to trace down you watching. So we don't want that to happen, okay? If you have any more follow-up questions or any more things we like to discuss, you can leave them below. I'm going to make videos about them. I'm going to also make extra videos about things that I know you need to know. Maybe you don't know it, but I know it, so we're going to have the information here. And last but not least, you have my full permission to download and distribute all of my videos to any platform of your choice. If you don't want to share the link directly for whatever reason, or if something happens to my channel or something happens in general and you want them, feel free to save them or to upload them somewhere else. I'm never going to copyright strike you, and there are no spells on this channel. This is for woke people only. If you found me, I want you to understand and to empower yourself. I don't want you to be a drum. To answer the questions, are there spells on your other channels? Yes, there are, but they're mainly for men because I practice seduction there. So you're safe if you watch me and you are not into femdom, fetishes, seduction, and so on. Okay, thank you for watching.